Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you're doing well and you are ready for today's program, because today on the show we have, of course, Ralph Bond. He is our science and tech trends correspondent, and he's here to talk about 4 amazing stories that you should really hear about, because let's face it, there's a lot vying for your attention right now, and I think these are flying under a lot of people's radars. Ralph does a good job of finding different publications, ones that you should check out on a regular basis yourself, but he picks his 4 favorite and brings them to you, the listener, here every Friday to, make it a little bit better. So everyone, welcome into the program. And with that being said, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, social media links, all that and more. Everyone, you can find everything at Computer America, including, there's a section of the website totally dedicated to Ralph Bond, and it has all of his shows. So if you just want a more Ralph focused segment, then hey, there you go, you got it right there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and bring Ralph on. So once again, he's been a longtime Computer America contributor, and of course is now our science and tech trends correspondent. And Ralph, welcome back onto the program. How you been?
Oh, it's great. It's great to be back. And boy, one thing I want to stress that you alluded to, we live in a dark world right now, but today's show, think of it like going from a dark closet, opening a door into the light of hope and progress, thanks to science and technology. That's what we do every Friday. We're going to leave you feeling great about some of the wonderful stories we have to share. And we cover everything from robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, space research, physics, you name it, across the board. And what I do is I look for interesting articles. I capture the essence of those articles in what we call our show notes, and the show notes are available on computeramerica.com. Come on out to the website, get the show notes. Why? Especially if you're listening to this as a podcast, you'll get the links, you'll see the pictures, and sometimes videos that we can share with you that highlight each one of these stories.
Absolutely. And you have some really fun ones. The first one I think should appeal to people who really like cheese. And that's a lot of people. So Ralph, let's just start with story number 1 and talk about, that gold that we all love, and not just cheese, but gold.
This is a winner. This comes from an outfit called ZME Science. And the headline, how could you possibly resist this headline? Here it comes. Eco-friendly breakthrough extracts gold out of electronic waste. And it's all thanks to cheese? What?
It's
you
different.
Gotta love it. Yeah. And in fact, if you're watching the video, you're lucky, because there's a wonderful illustration that's going to outline in visual ways exactly what the process is here that creates this miracle. But let's get into the story. First, however, a bit of background before we get into the news. And I got this from a query into the Microsoft Copilot artificial intelligence feature that's available. And gold plays a crucial role in the manufacturing of personal computers due to its exceptional properties. And let's explore how it's utilized. Now, I'm not going to go into all the detail that's in the show notes, but come on out and get those show notes if you're listening to us, and you can see all this information. But gold plays a role in central processing units. It plays a role in memory chips or RAM. It plays a role in the connectors, and ports in your personal computer and other components. Gold could be found in other computer components like motherboards, internal modems, PCI boards, and graphics processing units, GPUs. So these components often have gold on connection pins and surface layers. So gold is all over in minute quantity.
Oh. I'm sorry. I may have a little bit of a connection issue. Let me just check something real quick.
Also used in various
there we go.
computer parts. So your computer might be a little treasure, so to speak.
Right. Yep. And sorry, just had a little like 20-second outage there, but no. I think we got most of the background. That gold is crucial for pretty much every part of your computer, and
yes,
and Ralph, I think that would surprise a lot of people because I've heard a lot of people who just throw away old computer components, and like, I don't blame them. You buy something for $10, $5, whatever it may be. There's a little tiny bit of gold in there that we're all just kind of throwing away improperly. I'm sure. Shame on them, but still, this is why recycling electronics is so super important.
Oh yeah, and again, just to recap real quick, gold in the central processing unit, memory chips, connectors and ports on your PC, and many other elements and components inside your personal computer. And you're right. I recently turned into our local Goodwill a few bits of old computer parts and computers themselves, box, desktop type computers, and they will recycle them. At least our Goodwill does. They do a great job, and it's really wonderful. Plus, they also thoroughly scrub. I mean, really scrub any hard drive that's in these systems to ensure protecting your privacy. So that's something to remember. Check with your Goodwill folks if you have to recycle some components.
I had to dispose of my wife's computer recently, and the only surefire way that I found to deal with a hard drive is taking out your drill and putting a hole through it.
That's one way.
But of course, if you do that, then the drill is obviously useless. Now, for security reasons, there's probably reasons for that, and you can still recycle it and stuff like that. But that's just if you're completely paranoid. If it still has life left in it, then yes, the best way is to format it. Do the whole write over thing, and then, like Ralph did, recycle it so someone else can continue using it. But
and not to segue off from our news story too much, but one more tip. C Cleaner, which you can get as a free form of a utility. It goes through and catches things in your system. But C Cleaner, check it out, folks, has a disk scrubbing utility. And this isn't just formatting. This is bit by bit by bit scrubbing that. It takes a long time to do a sizable drive, but it will make it about as bulletproof as possible. So you don't necessarily have to drill through it, and it can be reformatted after the process. It can be reformatted and become useful again. So it's a little tip for you folks if you want to recycle your computers.
Very good one.
But anyway, back to the story. Here's the news. And I love this whole bit about getting gold from our e-waste thanks to cheese. Here it comes. Researchers from the laboratories of ETH Zurich in Switzerland have found a way to extract gold from the discarded circuits of our digital lives, employing nothing more than a byproduct of cheese production, a bodybuilder's favorite supplement, whey, W-H-E-Y, whey. That's the watery part of milk that remains after the formation of cheese curds. Okay. At the heart of this process is a simple yet highly effective material, a protein fibril sponge derived from whey. And in the show notes, I have a little explanation. This is where I add value to these articles, explaining what fibrils are. All right. So you can go and read that if you're so inclined. But let's go on here. A team from the Department of Health Sciences and Technology at ETH Zurich claims that their e-waste to precious metal conversion is highly efficient, cost-effective, and last but not least, environmentally friendly. Wow, it's a win-win-win-win-win. That's in contrast to traditional e-waste recycling, which is energy intensive and more often than not involves highly toxic chemicals to extract the precious metals. So people have been doing this, trying to extract precious metals from e-waste. But again, as this says here in the article, usually very toxic chemicals, costly process, and so on. So that's not a great thing. If you can do this with whey, wow.
Yeah, they usually do, a lot of acid, a lot of solvents, and a lot of things just to break the gold down into like liquid form, and then they use big plates and they magnetize it and use electricity and energy to stick it to the plates, and it's a whole process that like you said was just very destructive to the environment. And we actually had a guest on a little while ago that talked about this whole process and how, Ralph, it is so environmentally fraught that there's actually a big problem with e-waste. And not to get on my cheese box here, but a lot of countries are so like, they don't want to spend the money to do it properly and environmentally friendly and dispose of the end result or the byproducts well, that they ship it off to places like Malaysia, parts of India, Cambodia, places that are much poorer who could use the revenue and could use the business. But Ralph, like, they're just like, environment be darned, we're just going to get this done. And it's a big problem of sending our pollution to third world countries. And the guest that we had on ran an organization that tracked e-waste, that kind of gave everyone the numbers of where it's going, how it's being done, how much damage is it causing. Because like what we do now, unless you have local agencies that take it on themselves to really make sure that it gets done properly, by and large, on a large scale, it's not being done well. So this article really speaks on a lot of levels to a lot of the issues and how we can eventually solve them. So I'm sorry, another segue.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. And again, if you're lucky enough to be seeing us as a video, the illustration we're showing from the article is a great step-by-step. And let's go through this process. So the protein fibril sponges that these fellows have come up with are made by denaturing whey proteins under specific conditions, leading them to form a gel of protein nanofibrils. This gel, once dried, transforms into a sponge capable of selectively absorbing gold ions from a solution of dissolved electronic components.
Nice.
The beauty of this method lies in its selectivity. While other metals can adhere to the sponge, gold does so more efficiently, making the recovery process both precise and effective. And upon absorbing the gold ions, the researchers apply heat to the sponge, initiating a reduction process that converts these ions into metallic gold flakes. These flakes are then melted down to form a gold nugget. And again, the illustration that Ben's showing you on the screen here is perfect. It just gives you really a clear way of understanding the steps involved. And remarkably, I love this, this is fun. Remarkably, from the components of 20 old computer motherboards, the team successfully extracted a 450 milligram nugget of 22 karat gold, demonstrating the method's efficiency and potential for scalability. Here's a key point. They also showed, we think we have a formula for scaling this up into a big production scale. And a side note here, 450 milligrams is not a lot. It's approximately equal to 0.0159 ounces. So yeah, okay. But if you multiplied this out over thousands of computer motherboards, thousands of other components, and had this process really in a full scaled up manufacturing form, it could be significant. And looking ahead, the ETH Zurich researchers aim to refine and scale this technology for commercial use. And their vision includes exploring other sources of waste, such as industrial byproducts from microchip manufacturing or gold plating processes. And furthermore, they are investigating the potential of using other protein-rich waste materials to create fibril sponges, meaning things other than whey, broadening the scope of this sustainable technology. And perhaps they can tune other sponges to extract other useful metals besides gold, including maybe copper and cobalt. What a great story.
Yeah, and really seems like what they're going for is extracting every useful part out of old electronics. Which, of the 3 R's, reuse, recycle, that would really, kind of help with the reuse part, to use that metal over and over again. And it's really cool seeing, kind of the end result, which you don't think of like a gold brick, kind of falling out, but it's this weird, and I guess the one on the left is the sponge, and then the one on the right is the sponge covered with the gold flakes. pretty cool little transformation there. And of course, this is the first time, Ralph, I've seen any chart have, kind of any kind of flow chart start with cheese going in and gold coming out. So
it sounds like medieval alchemy, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Turn cheese into gold. But yeah, no, good job to, I believe that was laboratory of in Zurich. So
Yes.
shout out to them. This is a very interesting kind of study, and again, just a problem that needs some help, some different solutions.
Yeah.
So very, very good article. Story number 1 is going to be a little bit different because we're going to be talking about, well, Toyota. And, we've talked a bit about robotics before, and I think even last week on the show, we talked about little dog-like Boston Dynamic kind of dogs. But this is, this one's a bit different. And I'm glad that you drew the obvious reference to the Disney character. So let's go and get started with story number 2.
Yeah. This is a real interesting robotic story. So story number 2 comes from wonderfulengineering.com, a great website, by the way. Headline, New Soft Humanoid Robot by Toyota can pick things up with its whole body. So this is a really interesting twist on the whole development of humanoid robots. Because picture in your mind the typical humanoid robot. It looks like looks like a knight in shining armor, hard shell body and that sort of thing. So the Toyota folks, the research team at Toyota said, wait a minute, let's kind of rethink this because that's fine, but it doesn't embrace, literally, a lot of tasks that we want our humanoid robots to do that imitates how we as humans do. So let's get into the story. While most humanoid robots rely on hand-based manipulation, Toyota introduced Puiu, P-U-N-Y-O, a soft robot designed to mimic human movements, particularly when lifting and carrying bulky items. With a cuddly appearance, and if you're seeing the show notes here on screen, you get it right away. With a cuddly appearance and a focus on hugging, Puiu boasts an endearing design reminiscent of Disney's Baymax, B-A-Y-M-A-X. I wasn't familiar with this character, and I had to go out and get an image of it, which I embedded in the show notes. So it has a friendly face and a cozy sweater-like soft exterior. This soft outer layer made of grippy materials and equipped with tactile sensors enables Puiu to feel and interact with objects in a huggable manner. And you might think, well, okay, that's nice, but why? Well, we're going to find out. We'll find out why. Unlike traditional humanoid robots with dexterous hands, Puiu features deformable, inflatable pads resembling hooves, which Toyota refers to as paws. These paws, monitored by cameras, allow Puiu to sense and interact with its surroundings. So that's the hand part of it, which is different than the hard structural kind of hands we usually see in humanoid robots. Next, Puiu's arms are also equipped with air-filled bladders, providing added softness and flexibility during object manipulation tasks. And the video that we're showing you right now is really does illustrate this. Toyota researchers are training Puiu to handle various large objects using teleoperation techniques. That means the control of a device or machine remotely. Think of like your remote control little toy cars. It's the same kind of concept.
Yeah, if you're watching the video portion, you see a gentleman right next to the robot who's using what look like a PlayStation 5 motion or the PlayStation, the motion controllers, kind of the VR controllers, and he's using those to control the robot's arms. So it's not like it's moving its arms independently, but I'm sure step 1 of the process.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, the remote control, and eventually someday I'm sure it'll have its own onboard capability to do its own decisions. So right now, again, this is a good example of the trends part of what we do each Friday. This is early research, relatively speaking, and wow, where it's going to go is really something to think about. From hugging items to its chest and lifting them to more complex maneuvers like slinging a water jug onto its shoulder, Puiu demonstrates a more natural approach to object manipulation than other humanoid robots. And Puiu's learning process, here we go, utilizes artificial intelligence algorithms through a diffusion policy learning system. Puiu learns from examples and adjusts variables such as motion imitation and task priority to perform tasks autonomously and efficiently. And if you want to learn more about what they mean by diffusion policy learning system, I've inserted a little side note into the show notes. You can come out to computeramerica.com and get that additional information. So while Puiu's hug-focused approach may not be suitable for all scenarios, it presents a promising solution for tasks requiring gentle handling and close interaction, especially in domestic settings. You can see where they may be going with this as a domestic robot. As humanoid robots like Puiu evolve, their ability to assist with various tasks, including caregiving, interesting, opens up new possibilities for human-robot interaction in everyday life. So salute to the folks at Toyota for their research. And again, folks, Toyota is a lot more than the automobiles. They are really involved with a great deal of research, not least of which hydrogen fuel alternatives and so forth, which relate to automobiles and trucks. I give you that. But they also have research in robotics and all kinds of things. They're a pretty amazing company when you think about it.
Yeah, no, they've really been Toyota and Honda both have been at the forefront of robotics for a long time. And really a big part of it was car manufacturing. You know, they have those robots in the assembly line doing, a lot of the work, and they've just kind of taken it from there ever since the 80s and 90s. And this image that I paused on, if you're watching the video portion, it shows like 9 different Puius out there, and they're all doing, their job is to hold a water bottle, like a 5-gallon water jug, and they're all doing it slightly differently. And that's what that, the note in your show notes kind of alludes to, different ways that it's kind of doing the same thing. So still very cool, and obviously very early, but it's cool, Ralph, that they're working on it. Like the idea of like iRobot, I think is usually the one that people gravitate towards, where there's a robot living with every person, there's a robot in every home, and they kind of live among us. This is what needs to happen. Robots need to be able to do things like us, and luckily, Ralph, we don't walk around crushing each other just with simple handshakes. So very cool.
Good point.
Very cool, and very good story number 2. Story number 3. Let's go ahead and talk about story number 3. There's a lot of research going into just different forms of protein, and I'm not saying that vegans and vegetarians are right, but they are more ethical. You can't argue that. They're much more ethical, and there's a lot of benefits to it. Ralph, every time I meet a cow, or not a chicken, I'm okay with eating chicken, but anytime I meet a farm animal, I'm like, I wish you weren't so tasty, and I wish there was a better alternative. And a lot of people have the same sentiment, have the same feeling, and they're all working on different ways to kind of solve this. Story number 3 is, it's not going to be your next sirloin, but it could be something altogether a little bit different, and it could be, another piece of the puzzle, like we always like we always do.
Yes.
So let's talk about story number 3.
Yes, and so what we're going to do, and by the way, this comes from SciTechDaily.com, another wonderful site. So, Ben, what we're going to be talking about here is an advancement in making plant-based meat alternatives more attractive in terms of texture. So the headline here is Scientists Discover Key to Making Plant-Based Protein, meaning alternatives to meat, with Good Texture. Really a great story. And again, if you're lucky enough to see the video, you'll see the big machine they use for this.
Ralph, have you ever tried any of the, kind of Impossible Burger or Beyond Meat or anything like that? How'd you feel about them?
I think the Impossible Burger is astonishingly lifelike, so to speak. In fact, for my taste buds so far, it's the best burger alternative that I've come across that's plant-based. So yeah, I think it's pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah, they've come a long way from, because I remember a veggie burger, I'm not vegetarian by any means, but I had one when I was like 14, 15, Ralph. And I bit into it. I'm like, oh, veggie burger. Let's try it. That was one of the most disgusting things I've ever eaten in my life. Was an old veggie burger. It was just rice and black beans and just not appetizing whatsoever. But Beyond Meat and Impossible Burger, like the new faux replacement meats are better, but they could still they still have a ways to go. So story number 3.
Oh, exactly right. And again, in the field of plant-based alternative protein or meat, there's been so much research about growing actual living animal tissue, growing it in the lab, so you don't have to kill the animal. You clone them, so to speak, in the terms of making the muscle material. But this, again, is all about the plant-based alternatives and trying to make them feel and taste, well, not just taste, but feel. That's the key. Feel more like a real meat-eating experience. So again, from SciTech Daily, here's the story. It's widely recognized, of course, that reducing our consumption of meat and cheese in favor of plant-based foods is beneficial to our world and climate. But however, when faced with the choice, and this is what you were alluding to, faced with the choice between traditional animal-based items, meat, and environmentally friendly alternative proteins in the supermarket's refrigerated section, we don't always make the eco-conscious choice. And it's not condemning and wagging a finger at people. It's just saying, hey, let's get real. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
Right? Despite that, the fact that many plant-based options, meaning, again, meat alternatives, now have good flavor, textures with the right mouth feel have often been lacking. Now, I do think Impossible Burgers get pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Furthermore, some plant-based protein alternatives are not as sustainable anyway due to resources consumed by their processing. So it's, there's arguments on both sides of the scale here. But what if it's possible to make sustainable protein-rich foods that also have the right texture? Okay. New research from the University of Copenhagen is fueling that vision. The key to this new research is blue-green algae. Not the infamous type known for being a poisonous broth in the sea come summertime, but non-toxic ones. Wow. And again, if you have the show notes, you're watching the video, or come out if you're listening to us as a podcast, computeramerica.com, get the show notes. You'll see this big device, this big array in a lab with these tubes filled with the algae. Is really kind of a remarkable setup. So Professor Paul Erik Jensen of the Department of Food Science at the University of Copenhagen noted that cyanobacteria, also known as blue-green algae, are living organisms that we have been able to get to produce a protein that they don't naturally produce. So they've tweaked them to produce a protein they normally wouldn't produce. And you'll see why is this important? Well, the particularly exciting thing here is that the protein is formed in fibrous strands that somewhat resemble meat fibers. There's your texture element, right? And it might be possible to use these fibers in plant-based meat, cheese, or some other new type of food for which they are after a particular texture. And I want to stress something here. And it might be possible. Friends, this is in the trends category. This is early research. No one's trying to tell you that next week at Costco, you're going to pick up a product with this capability. It's beginning, but it leads to a path that may someday create an Impossible Burger that's just impossibly lifelike.
From a science and kind of chemist point of view, which I'm picking up more and more the more that we do these stories, Ralph. Like, chemists and scientists look at a problem and then they break it down into individual problems. So they're not going to solve the whole thing in one fell swoop, but it seems like they're fixing that one, which is, meat is fibrous and these artificial meats are not fibrous. How do we build fibers? And then out comes something that looks like long things of conduit filled with algae, which is crazy, but
bizarre.
Very cool.
I know it is very cool. So in a new study, and by the way, the show notes have a link to the study if you want to super geek out, Jensen and his fellow researchers at the University of Copenhagen, among other institutions, so they're collaborating, have shown that cyanobacteria can serve as host organisms for the new protein by inserting foreign genes into the cyanobacterium. Within the cyanobacterium, the protein organizes itself as tiny threads or nanofibers. Okay, now here comes the reality check. This is where we're talking about, this is early research. The professor, the lead guy in this effort, emphasizes that it will be quite some time before the production of protein strands from cyanobacteria begins. First, the researchers need to figure out how to optimize the cyanobacteria's production of protein fibers. But, end of the story, Jensen and his team are very optimistic. So stay tuned. It may take a decade, but we're going to get there to where an Impossible Burger is maybe indistinguishable from animal meat.
Yeah, and really, like the flavor's not quite there, the texture's not quite there, but Ralph, I mean, being not quite there is leaps and bounds from where we were just even like, 10, 15 years ago. So, hey, soon down the road, you may not have to look at a burger and go, maybe I'm not doing the best thing for the planet, maybe I'm not definitely not doing the best thing for the animal, but hey, it will still be a darn good burger. So that's the dream. So there you go. So we're going to go ahead and skip on down to story number 4. And this one is, as someone who has struggled to lose weight, let me tell you, it's, you get sold a lot of miracle pills. You get sold a lot of, ads that will help you kind of shed the weight in no time. But story number 4, it's not promising to be a miracle pill, but it is a pill, and it does potentially help with part of what makes losing weight so difficult. So, Ralph, let's go ahead and talk about some engineering to help you lose weight.
Here it comes. This comes from Massachusetts Institute of Technology News, their MIT News Service. Great story headline. Engineers develop a vibrating, ingestible capsule that might help treat obesity. So I think the target here, Ben, would be probably people who are morbidly obese or really severely obese and so forth. But who knows? It may scale up in production and be something you can get at Costco or your pharmacy or whatever. Who knows? Someday.
or your local Radio Shack. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Do they still have Radio Shack?
No, I think they have like one, but no.
Maybe, yeah. So when you eat a large meal, your stomach sends signals to your brain that create a feeling, of fullness, which helps you realize it's time to stop eating. I wish that would happen when I have popcorn watching movies in my home theater. That would be nice. A stomach full of liquid can also send these messages or cause these messages to be sent to the brain, which is why dieters are often advised to drink a glass of water before eating. I've tried that, and it does kind of work. MIT engineers have now come up with a new way to take advantage of that phenomenon using an ingestible capsule that vibrates within the stomach. These vibrations activate the same stretch receptors that sense when the stomach is distended or expanded, creating an illusory sense of fullness. It's fooling your system. Isn't that something? In test animals who were given this pill 20 minutes before eating, the researchers found that this treatment not only stimulated the release of hormones that signal fullness, satiety, or a feeling of fullness, but also reduced the animal's food intake by about 40%.
Wow.
So the idea, maybe a human takes this pill 20 minutes before it's dinner time.
I'm surprised they went with less. Yeah, I'm surprised they went with the animals first, not just people, because I have eaten things different than this pill that I have passed just fine. So I wonder why they went with well I guess just animal testing is just you got to do it, but so curious. Very cool.
Yeah, again, Ben, to your point about animals not humans yet, sure they're going to graduate to humans. This again is another example of what we do. Trends, early research. So stand by. We'll see where this goes. So when the stomach becomes distended, specialized cells called mechanoreceptors sense the stretching and send signals to the brain via the vagus nerve. As a result, the brain stimulates production of insulin, as well as several hormones. All of these hormones work together to help people digest their food, feel full, and stop eating. At the same time, levels of ghrelin, that's GHRELIN, a hunger-promoting hormone, it go down. So the hunger-promoting hormone, the hormone that makes you say, God, I'm hungry, I really need that burger, That goes down. For this study, a team of researchers designed a capsule about the size of a multivitamin that includes a vibrating element. When the pill, which is powered by a small silver oxide battery, reaches the stomach, acidic gastric fluids dissolve the gelatinous membrane that covers the capsule, completing the electronic circuit that activates the vibrating motor. In a study with animals, the researchers showed that once the pill begins vibrating, it activates mechanoreceptors, which send, as noted before, signals to the brain through stimulation of the vagus nerve. Not Las Vegas. We're talking about VAGUS, vagus nerve. The researchers tracked hormone levels during the periods when the device was vibrating and found that they mirrored the hormone release pattern seen following a meal, even when test animals had fasted. And here's kind of the conclusion. Scientists have much more to learn. Okay, here's the reality check. This is the part I'm stressing, early research. Scientists have much more to learn about the mechanisms that influence human body weight, but if further research suggests this technology could be safely used in humans, such a pill might offer a minimally invasive way to treat obesity, the researchers say. I would suggest it would probably be one element in an arsenal of diagnostic or treatment tools for people who are severely obese. But a cool story. And again, we do like to end most of our shows with something in the medical technology field, and this is a great story.
For sure. I'm curious if the animals didn't eat as much, not because they felt like they were full, but because they're like, I feel like I have jumping beans in my stomach, or I feel like I just ate a child's toy. Like I wonder, if it could just be an upset stomach. I don't know, Ralph, but
that's
still
interesting.
It's very cool technology and something really, really innovative because, again, I've heard a lot of, lose weight quick schemes.
Yeah, sure.
This is different. So as soon as Oprah starts plugging this one, then we'll know it's worth trying. So there you go.
There it is.
Okay. So for those out there who are checking the show notes and you're like, but Ben, there's still so many more pages. Don't worry. Those are Ralph's honorable mentions, and the honorable mentions are not bad. They're not worse. They're not crazier. It's just something that we just don't have time for. So Ralph, if you'd like, let's go ahead and at least do the headlines for the honorable mentions.
Absolutely. Again, if you're listening to us as a podcast, only come out to computeramerica.com, get the show notes. 3 honorable mentions this week. Headline: this new hybrid vertical takeoff and landing aircraft will be able to fly itself more than 500 miles range. So it's an electric vehicle. This comes from the Robb Report. A great story. Check it out. The next one is from Medical Express. Robotic hip exoskeleton shows promise for helping stroke patients regain their stride.
Wow.
So inspiring. I love it. Great picture in that story too, by the way. Next one, Nikon and NASA are putting a mirrorless camera on the moon. These are the kind of stories that you're not going to hear on your nightly news. This is stuff that's important, but it goes under the radar. Really stress this is a great story. It comes from The Verge. Check it out. And those are our 3 honorable mentions for this week.
Absolutely. And 1 second. Okay, no, it's fine. So Ralph, with that being said, let me turn that volume down there. There we go. That probably sounds better to everyone. Ralph, I want to thank you so much for bringing these stories to everyone's attention, and everyone out there. I want you to thank you so much for bringing your attention to us. So with that being said, that's it for today's shows. If you want to find out more and just catch up if you were busy, if you were like, no way, Ralph was right about the cheese and the gold thing, don't worry. computeramerica.com. You can check it out there. And in the meantime, I want you to have a great weekend, do something fun. By the time you hear from us next, the eclipse will have happened. Ladies and gentlemen, get some glasses. Don't just stare at the sun. Don't be silly. And everyone, enjoy out there and have a great weekend. Until next time, take care. Bye, everyone.